everyone, this is Annindita Palaus, and today's video is about energy vampires and empaths. And the reason this video is about empaths and energy vampires is because personally my experience has been this, that usually people who are empaths, or in other words, who are very empathetic towards other people's feelings and emotions, they tend to have problems with so-called energy vampires. And that's why I made this video about how to protect yourself from energy vampires. I personally feel that this will be a very relevant video for people who are very empathetic or people who call themselves empaths. Now, first of all, the reason I'm making this video is because I've come across a lot of videos and blog posts and discussions on various spiritual YouTube channels as well as social media spiritual forums where the way they talk about energy vampires, it kind of makes it seem like energy vampires are these extremely negative people and it's all about them and it's all about these bad people who just influence you and drain your energy. And I felt like very few people actually understood what energy vampires really are. And this is how I like to describe energy vampires. I don't think energy vampires are people who are deliberately being bad or mean and negative to drain you of your energy. What I mean by energy vampire is basically every time you are in somebody's presence or maybe in a certain situation or circumstance where after being in that situation or after being in that company for some time, you end up feeling very tired or drained or just very unsettled in your mind and body. That is how I personally like to describe energy vampires are. And I have heard many people describe energy vampires as these negative people who are always putting you down. Now, I understand that if you are surrounded by people who are not encouraging, who are discouraging all the time, who are very skeptical or maybe cynical about everything that you say or do, that could feel the same way too. And again, that would make you, again, when you spend time with people who are discouraging, who are not very positive or uplifting, who don't encourage you to be yourself, it will also end up making you feel very unsettled when you are in the company of such people. And energy vampire is a commonly used term that people use for all these people who are not helping you to raise your vibration. Instead, they pull your vibrations down, pull your energy down. So that is just how I describe energy vampires. One thing to keep in mind is that energy vampires are not necessarily people who have bad intentions for you. They might actually be people who have very good intentions for you. They think they have good intentions for you and they think that they are protecting you. It could be your close friends and family members who are actually trying to protect you from something that they perceive to be negative. Maybe they are discouraging you from doing something because they feel that if you don't succeed in that particular endeavor or whatever it is, then you will be disappointed sooner or later. And so they want to disappoint you sooner than later before you are too much invested in that particular task or investment or relationship, whatever it might be. So they're kind of trying to look out for you. They're trying to be your well-wisher, but maybe just the way that they're trying to look out for you is not the ideal way and it's not really helping you, and they don't realize that. On the other hand, there might be some of these people who are deliberately trying to pull you down. It could be any of these situations. And in my opinion, it doesn't matter whether they are deliberately trying to pull you down or whether they are doing it in order to try and protect you. But eventually, energetically, it is having the same result on you. So it is important that, especially for empaths, and empaths are people who are very sensitive to their environment, who are very sensitive to the emotions of the people that they are meeting or mingling with. So people who are highly sensitive to emotions of the people that they are interacting with, it is especially even more important for empaths to be very mindful about how a particular person, place, or situation feels. It is very important for empaths to always be in touch with their feelings because your feelings could be a really great guidance system for empaths. Not just for empaths, though, it is true for everybody, but particularly for empaths because I can talk about empaths for myself because I had been an empath for a really long time and I still am, of course. And these are some of the things that I have experienced myself, that when I'm in a certain situation or maybe with a certain group of people, certain people, they just bring my energies up. They just make me feel happy. And then certain people, after I interact with them for a certain amount of time, it just makes me, not necessarily always brings me down a lot energetically, but just makes me feel very restless for a certain period of time. I can feel that my mind is like extremely agitated, is very restless, and it's harder for me to be centered in meditation after that. So I don't necessarily have to be feeling very energetically drained in order to know that certain situations or certain company of people is not very beneficial for me. It's not just that I have to feel very sad or depressed or low or angry or annoyed in order for me to realize that a certain situation is not good for me. Even the very fact that if I'm feeling very restless, if it is just making me very uncentered, so to speak, in my mind and body, then I realize that even that particular situation or that interaction is not very good for me. So here are a couple of things that I have personally seen has been very helpful for me, and I think it will be very helpful for anybody who's very sensitive towards other people's energies. One of the things that makes us empath is that empaths have a deep desire to make others feel good. And it is not always for just the benefit of the other person. At least I've seen for myself that I used to like to make others feel good because that helps me feel good. Because I'm an empath. So I need to be surrounded by happy people. If I'm not, then that impacts me. And that's why I had this deep inner desire to make people around myself happy. And of course, it took me some amount of time to realize this. And secondly, empaths also have this unconscious kind of like an autopilot tendency to be one with the other person or to be one with the situation that they are in a little too much, to attach themselves a little too much. And that was also one of the things that I would often empathize with the other person so much that I would literally put myself in the other person's shoes. And that's why I would be feeling their energies a little too strongly. So here are a couple of things to keep in mind if you feel like you are an empath and you want to keep yourself or protect yourself from the so-called energy vampires. First of all, realize that these other people whom we are labeling as energy vampires, they are not the real problem. The real problem is always you. And it took me some time to realize that the real problem was always me. And, like an analogy, if I cut my hand, where should I be applying the band aid to? On my hand or on the knife that cut my hand? Well, the knife was just doing what it was supposed to be doing. Knife is meant to cut. So that's what it did. It was me who was handling the knife, and I didn't handle it correctly. And so the band aid needs to be applied on my hand, not on the knife. And similarly, when you are in certain situations or you're interacting with people, you know, if you think that the problem is with the other person because they are the ones bringing your energy down, that's not the case. If your energy is getting down after being with somebody, you need to work on yourself. People are just being the way they are, and you cannot go around changing the world. And the second thing to remember is this, that often it is our own judgments that we place on the person, the situation, the the whole situation, basically the whole discussion, whatever it is that we are talking about. Often it is our own meanings that we assign to the situation that labels it to be a good experience or a bad experience. When we assign a good meaning to a certain experience, automatically we have a good experience and it increases our energy. When we assign a bad meaning to a certain experience, automatically it decreases our energy or it lowers our vibration. So, to become consciously aware of the fact that you are the one who is assigning labels, who is assigning meanings to different situations and circumstances and people and their opinions and their perceptions about you and whatever the situation might be. When you realize that you are the one who's applying these labels of good and bad, then that is kind of a point of tremendous power, because you realize that it is really under your control. And you can then start seeing beyond the labels of good and bad, beyond the labels of somebody being called an energy vampire. That, oh my God, this person is so negative all the time. They're always draining my energy. What if you start seeing that person beyond that label that you have applied on them? What if you start seeing whatever it is that they're talking about beyond any of the labels and judgments that you have applied on that particular situation and circumstance? Now, of course, this is going to take some amount of time, and maybe initially it might actually be a good idea to distance yourself physically from people whom you perceive to be an energy vampire. But at the end of the day, I would also recommend that you do realize that somebody whom you perceive to be an energy vampire might not be perceived as an energy vampire by another person. In fact, somebody else might even find their company extremely happy and uplifting. So, really, when it comes down to labeling somebody as an energy vampire, I would not really label people as energy vampires. And this is one of the reasons I'm making this video today, because I saw a lot of videos on YouTube and read some blog posts about the concept of energy vampires, which kind of made me feel like all these blogs and videos, they're kind of blaming some people in their life as being very negative and bad and harmful for your well-being. And while I'm not denying that there might be some people whom you are perceiving to be very negative, but at the end of the day, it is all about your perception that makes the difference. Those exact same people might be perceived as being very positive by somebody else. So there is no such thing as an absolute negative, and there is no such thing as an absolute positive. Maybe in your perception, somebody is extremely negative and they are draining your energy, and you are calling them an energy vampire. But realize that they are not really the energy vampires. Again, the same analogy. A knife is a knife is just being a knife. It's just doing its job, whatever it does. That person is just being who they are. And the way you deal with that person, the way you perceive that person to be, is going to determine how your interaction is going to be. It's like when you are using a knife, you better be careful. You use it, you leverage it in a way that it is meant to be leveraged in. You use it for chopping certain items which you cannot chop otherwise. But if you are a little less mindful, you might end up cutting your own fingers. So, certain things now, of course, if you're using a blunt knife, then no matter how much pressure you put, you will probably not cut your hands. But you really want to have a blunt knife. So it's really a matter of your perception. So these same people, you could always choose to use their company and, maybe whatever it is that they talk about, you could always choose to use that energy in a positive way, or you could always choose to use that energy as a negative way. So you are the one who is assigning the meaning behind everything. And when you realize that, then you can actually go beyond all meanings of good and bad and just see things for what they really are. And when you start doing that, you will see that often a lot of these situations, circumstances, and people are really much ado about nothing. Most of the conversations we have don't really matter. Most of the problems we have are not really that big. And that might take a little bit of practice to be in that situation. But before that, it might also be helpful to maybe physically distance yourself from people who are extremely negative and always putting you down. Until unless you are at a place where you are so strong and so steady in your own high vibrational place that even if you meet low vibrational people, so to speak, again, I don't like using these labels, but sometimes in your regular conversation, you do have to have some kind of labels for the conversation to make sense. It's all a relative thing, of course. Low vibration, high vibration is all a very, very relative thing based on where you are on the vibrational scale. And I've spoken about the vibrational scale many times in a lot of my other videos. So Again, if you are depressed, then somebody who's angry might actually be a higher vibrational place for you, because depression is a lower energy. Anger is higher than depression, because we all know that the energy of depression just makes us be apathetic. What's the use of doing anything? Nothing is going to work. The energy of anger, on the other hand, is like, if you want to go ahead and do something, maybe cause harm to the other person, do something negative, but at least it's a more outgoing energy. It has more movement to it. So of course, negative, positive, it's all like it's a very relational thing. It's all relative. But once you start realizing that it's really all about your own perception, that also gives you the power. So, number one is raising your own vibration. Number two is to realize that it's all about your perception and the labels that you apply. There is no such thing as energy vampires, so to speak. Of course, this video is about energy vampires, and now I'm saying that there is no such thing as energy vampires, in the sense that there are no people who are like universal energy vampires. The same people whom you don't like, who are draining you energetically, might be the very same people who are really liked a lot by somebody else. So when you have this kind of an experience with somebody, maybe for a short period of time you need to stay away from these people. Eventually it's great to realize that you are the creator of your experience. So when you start raising your own vibration, then you stop attracting people who are at a lower vibrational plane, and at the same time you also stop attracting situations which are at a lower vibrational plane. And secondly, when you stop labeling things as good and bad, black and white, then you start seeing things for what they are, beyond all these labels. And you will often see that it's not really as good or it's not really as bad. It's really just neutral. Most things are really neutral. In fact, I would even say that everything is neutral in this universe, and it's just our perception that makes it appear good or bad. It's our value system, it's our beliefs. It's just a lot of things that we have picked up from our environment, our culture, our upbringing, a lot of different things. The books we read, the TV shows we watch. There's so many things that are involved in shaping our belief system and our perception. It's really hard to even point out every single thing. But once you start realizing that, bad things might not be really bad and good things might not be really as good as the same, everything is really neutral, and it's your choice, your decision, what label you want to apply on what. And that's what we do anyways. But when you start doing it more consciously, then you start seeing things beyond black and white labels. And thirdly, and this is more not so much of a technique, but more of a tool, and that is a Rudraksh. For those of you who don't know what a Rudraksh is, it is basically a seed from a tree. It is very common in India. A lot of yogis often wear pendants made of Rudraksh. The way I got to know about Rudraksh is from Sadhguru, one of the spiritual teachers in India, whom I love to follow, and I love to watch his videos on YouTube. And a year or so ago, I heard Sadhguru talk about Rudraksh. And then soon afterwards, it was the occasion of Mahashivratri, which is a big celebration in India. And Sadhguru was giving away free Rudraksh to everybody for really just a donation. And the donation is totally up to you, whether you want to pay that donation or not. It was really free. And so I ordered that Rudraksh because I heard Sadhguru talk about Rudraksh and its benefits. And one of the things that caught my attention was that you wear a Rudraksh to maintain your energy integrity. And I didn't quite realize what it was going to do for me at first. I was not really getting a Rudraksh for the purpose of, protecting myself from other people's energies. But the way Sadhguru explained it was this, that if you are traveling a lot, or if you're meeting a lot of people, then, and sleeping in a lot of different beds, in hotel rooms, then it's a great way for people who are on the spiritual path. If they are wearing a Rudraksh all the time, then it creates a cocoon of your own energy, so that your energy does not get intermingled with other energies around you, just keeping your energy clean, so to speak. And that just resonated with me, and I thought that I would love to wear a Rudraksh. And I got that Rudraksh, and I paid some donation. Of course, I don't think you have to pay anything, but it's totally up to you. And now I wear the Rudraksh all the time, and this is how a Rudraksh looks like. is really just a black thread, and it's a small little seed from a tree. Now, the thing with Rudraksh is this, that it needs to be an authentic Rudraksh, and honestly, I don't know how to determine an authentic Rudraksh from an inauthentic one. There are two ways of doing this though. You can put it under an X-ray machine and see if it is an authentic one or not by checking if there is a seed inside it or not. And secondly, you can, of course, break it open. If you break it open, then it's useless. You cannot wear it anymore. And most people don't have X-ray machines in their home to really check the quality of a Rudraksh. So if you plan on getting a Rudraksh, get it from a reliable place. I would highly suggest getting it from the Isha Yoga Center, either the one in India or the one here in the US, or if you're located somewhere outside of US, somewhere in Europe, Isha Yoga Center, they have their centers all over the world in various places. I don't even know where they have, but I know that they have center here in the US in Tennessee, they have in India, and they also have somewhere in Europe. I would suggest getting from there because I trust them. And one of the things I noticed ever since I started wearing the Rudraksh on a daily basis is this, that I no longer felt other people's emotions in my body. And that was something I had a challenge for quite some time, especially when it came to people whom I am closer to, for instance, like my husband. So, being an empath, often I would be feeling his energies even when he is not even in the room, even when we are not even talking about something. And I would often have this feeling that, I'm doing my own thing in my room, he's working, and maybe he's doing something and it's not working out the way he wants it to work out, and he's feeling a little bit annoyed or pissed, and then all of a sudden I'll start feeling annoyed. And then I would wonder, why am I feeling like this? That's weird. I mean, 1 minute ago I was totally fine. And then I find out that he was busy working with something that was not working out. And that happened many, many times. And I was a little bit frustrated with myself. I was blaming myself that, why am I not able to kind of prevent this, because I don't want to be feeling anything with somebody else's feeling. And that happened not only with my husband, but with close friends or close relatives. And, I don't like being at the mercy of other people. I don't like my feelings to be at the mercy of other people. I like to be in charge of my own mind and body. And so I had been looking for some kind of tools that would help me get over this. And the first two things that I said, of course, raising your own vibration, that definitely helped. Taking personal responsibility and going beyond my labels and my judgments, that also helped a lot. And even the practice of letting go, that also helped quite a bit. But even then, it was not a 100% where I wanted to be. I was still impacted by people's emotions around me, even when I'm not interacting with them face to face, even when they are in a different room. I could still feel it, and I didn't really want it. But anyways, coming back to how I got my Rudraksh, when I was ordering my Rudraksh, I didn't know that this is how it's going to work for me. But this is what it did for me. From the time I started wearing the Rudraksh, that has been over a year now, I don't feel other people's emotions in my body like that anymore. And I feel this is because this is what Sadhguru meant by maintaining your energy integrity. And that doesn't mean that I'm blind to what people around me are feeling. I can still sense if somebody is feeling sad. I can still sense if somebody is not feeling quite all right. But I don't need to feel that in my own body. I don't need to feel that emotionally in myself. So it kind of created that energy bubble for myself. And so if you are an empath and you've already tried a lot of different things, I suggest that you look into getting a Rudraksh for yourself from the Isha Yoga Center or from some other reliable source, and do a little bit of research on what kind of Rudraksh you should be getting. Because according to Sadhguru, there are different types of Rudraksh, and not all kinds of Rudraksh are suitable for everybody in all situations. Again, I really suggest that you reach out to Isha Yoga Center for the details. And I believe the best way would be to wait till the next Mahashivratri. Sadhguru is usually giving away 1,000,000 of these energized Rudraksh on the occasion of Mahashivratri that you can actually pre-order. So if you want, you can give that a try. So these three things have been really beneficial for me. The first one is more of an energetic thing, that you work on increasing your own energetic frequency so you don't have low vibration interactions with people anymore. The second one is more of a mental shift where you realize that things are actually neutral and you are the one who is giving meanings to situations and people. And the third is actually a actual physical tool to wear. And sometimes when I'm at a party or something, and if I feel like the black thread is not going with my dress, then I remove the thread and I just hide it in my dress. But I do my very best to always be wearing it, especially when I'm in a situation where I meet a lot of people. And the time when I actually ordered it, that was like 1.5 years ago, I was not even meeting too many people back then. I was not even traveling that much. So I don't know why I felt so attracted towards the idea of getting it, because Sadhguru specifically mentioned it's great for people who are interacting with a lot of people, who travel a lot. That was not me. I was barely interacting with people, I was barely traveling back then. The pandemic was there, that was one of the reasons. And now that the pandemic is over, plus I am also a full time realtor now, so I do end up meeting a lot of people and I've started traveling again. It's definitely useful right now. But one of the very first benefits that I started realizing was this, that even when I was just sitting inside my own house, sometimes I'll start picking up feelings of other people who are with me. I don't pick up on those feelings like that right now in my own body. Of course, I can still sense it. There are so many other ways to sense it, but you don't have to personally feel that. And that helps me to maintain my own energetic frequency, so to speak. Because one of the things is when you get too entangled in other people's emotions, you are not really able to help them that much. It's great to be able to maintain your own energy integrity, so to speak, because then you can be in a stable place to be able to help other people out. If you are empathizing too much with somebody else to the extent that you start feeling their feelings, if they are in despair and you also feel despair, how are you going to help them move out from that feeling of despair? You have to be at a higher vibrational place in order to help somebody else get out of any lower vibrational place, so to speak. So I hope these 3 points would help you. If this is something that you have been having a challenge with, let me know in the comments below what are some of the techniques that you have used as an empath, or even if you're not an empath, to prevent your energies from getting drained from the so-called energy vampires. Even though you know now that I don't necessarily believe in labeling anybody else as an energy vampire, all that is happening is this, that you are not very stable in your high vibrational position and you have certain judgments about certain discussions, certain people, certain ideas and ideologies, which brings your vibrations down every time you interact with a certain person in a certain way. So let me know in the comments below what was your takeaway from this video. And if you haven't already, then subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends and family. Also, if you are interested in learning more about meditation, Reiki, and the law of attraction, then click on the link below in the description and check out my home study programs, which you can learn from anywhere in the world at your own pace, in your own time. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.